Welcome, everyone. I'm excited to kick off today's presentation. This is the first slide, which sets the tone for what we'll explore together. The title is Copyright 2026 by Continuous Learning Development. And we'll be reflecting on a powerful hadith from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. May Allah be pleased with him. It's about the importance of addressing evil in our lives and communities. Today, we'll discuss how this hadith guides us to act, whether with our hands, speech, or heart, based on our ability. So, let's dive into this meaningful message and see how it can inspire our actions. In this hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, specifically mentions the situation where a person witnesses an evil being committed. If there is an obvious and clear evil that Muslims see happening, it's their obligation to try and change it if they are able to do so. But it's important to note that many scholars interpret this part of the hadith differently. They see it as referring more to knowledge rather than just sight. In other words, if someone is certain that an evil is occurring, whether they see it or know about it, they must take action to remove it. So the key takeaway here is that when we see or know about wrongdoing, there's a duty on us to do what we can to address it, aligning with the overall theme of promoting good and preventing evil in our community. Today, I want to focus on a very important concept. Change it means remove it. This highlights that, in our faith, removing evil is not just a personal choice, but a communal obligation. If a Muslim or a group of Muslims actively repels or removes evil, then the rest of the community is absolved from any responsibility in that matter. It's a collective duty to ensure that evil does not persist. However, if none of them takes action, even when they have the ability to do so, they share the blame and are considered sinful. This is a point that scholars agree upon, emphasizing the importance of collective responsibility in addressing wrongdoings. Finally, the phrase, "then he must change it with his hand," underscores the method of this action. It's a direct, active approach, changing or removing evil physically when possible. This principle is central to our overall theme of promoting righteousness and standing against evil in our communities. Let's take a moment to unpack this idea. The slide states that the command to change an evil with one's own hand really depends on having the ability to do so. In other words, you need the capacity, the skill, or the means to make that change directly. If you find that you're not able to do it physically or practically, then the next step is to consider a different approach, changing the situation with your words instead. This highlights an important concept. When direct action isn't possible, communication and influence become powerful tools. It connects to our overall theme of growth and adaptability, understanding our limits and finding alternative ways to make a positive impact. So, the key takeaway here is that our response should be guided by our abilities, and if those are limited, we should switch to a different, equally effective method. Let's talk about one of the most powerful tools we have for changing evil, our words. It's often said that the most effective way to combat wrongdoings is through speech. If we have the ability and the authority to make a change with our hands, like taking direct action, then we should do so. But what if we don't have that capacity? What if direct action isn't possible at that moment? That's when our words come into play. Using our speech to influence others who are committing wrong can be incredibly impactful. It's about speaking up, guiding, and encouraging them to stop their harmful actions. The key message here is, then he must change it with his tongue ***. When direct action isn't an option, our words become the next best tool to promote good and halt evil. This idea ties into our overall theme, the importance of active, responsible engagement in creating positive change. Every one of us has the power to influence others, and sometimes that influence begins with a simple but sincere conversation. Let's take a moment to reflect on the key message here. If a person finds it difficult to speak out against evil, then the next best step is to confront it with their heart. This highlights the importance of internal conviction when external action isn't possible. The idea that being capable applies both to the tongue and the hand reminds us that our ability to influence and change is not limited to physical actions. Our words and intentions matter just as much. Evil, as emphasized here, is never something to accept or be pleased with. It's something we are all required to actively work against. Whether through our actions, our speech, or our inner feelings, we should strive to change the evil around us. And if, for some reason, we cannot address it outwardly, whether through action or speech, then the next best thing is to change it within our hearts. That internal change is still a form of resistance and a reflection of true faith. The quote from Ibn Masud reinforces this idea. Sometimes, all we can do is recognize the evil and let Allah know that we dislike it. That internal stance, that internal rejection, is powerful and necessary. So, in essence, when external means aren't available, our internal resolve, our hearts, becomes the final battlefield for righteousness. This connects to our overall theme of continuous growth and moral resilience. So when we talk about faith here, we're not just referring to a belief or trust in something abstract. Instead, it's about the asterisk effect asterisk or fruit of that faith. In other words, faith manifests in specific ways or results in our lives. One of the clearest manifestations is the objection to whatever is evil. If we truly have faith, it should inspire us to oppose evil whenever we encounter it. And importantly, if we have the power to eliminate that evil through our own actions, faith compels us to do so. However, it's crucial to recognize that this kind of active response is actually the weakest form of faith. Why? Because real, mature faith goes beyond just trying to fix things with our own hands. It's about trusting in a higher power and understanding that sometimes, true faith involves patience, surrender, and reliance on divine strength rather than our own. This connects to our overall theme of faith not just being a passive belief, but a dynamic force that shapes our actions and attitude towards evil. It's about commitment, whether through action or trust, and understanding that faith is expressed in many ways, some more powerful than others. Let's take a moment to reflect on this important hadith. It emphasizes that a Muslim should never simply accept the presence of evil. Instead, it is his obligation to take action to remove that evil whenever possible. If he has the ability to do so with his hand, meaning through direct action or physical intervention, he must do so. However, if removing the evil with his hand isn't possible, or if doing so might cause a greater harm, then he should try to address it through speech, perhaps by advising or speaking out against it. And if even speaking out isn't an option, or if it might lead to more problems, then the final step is to remove the evil within one's heart. This is considered the least manifest form of faith in relation to evil, but it is still a sign of true Iman. So, in summary, this hadith teaches us that responsibility lies on us to act against wrong, but also that there are appropriate ways to do so depending on the circumstances. It connects to the overall theme of actively promoting good and preventing evil in our daily lives while exercising wisdom and caution.